She was an orphan, a foreigner, a woman in a world controlled entirely by men. She had no army, no political power, no official standing in the most powerful empire on earth. And God placed the fate of an entire nation in her hands. The book of Esther is unlike any other book in the Bible. God's name does not appear in it, even once. There are no miracles recorded, no angelic appearances, no burning bushes, or parting seas. And yet, from beginning to end, every single event is so precisely orchestrated that only one explanation is possible. God was there, in every coincidence, in every closed door and every opened one, moving through the shadows of a Persian palace to save his people. This is the real story of Esther, and it was written for every person who has ever wondered whether their life in this place at this time actually matters. Her Hebrew name was Hadassah. Her Persian name, the name the world would remember, was Esther. She was Jewish, an orphan. Both her father and mother had died, and her older cousin Mordecai had taken her in and raised her as his own daughter. They lived in Susa, the capital city of the Persian Empire, among the Jewish people who had never returned to Israel after the Babylonian exile. They were foreigners in a foreign land, a minority people with no political power and no official protection. Mordecai worked at the king's gate, a position of some access to the royal court, and he raised Esther with faithfulness, with love, and with one crucial piece of instruction. Tell no one you are Jewish. That instruction, that hidden identity, would become the hinge on which the entire story turns. King Ahasuerus, known to history as Xerxes the Great, ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, the most powerful man on earth. During a great banquet celebrating his wealth and power, he sent for his queen, Vashti, to display her beauty before his guests. Vashti refused. The king was furious. His advisors warned him that if word spread that a queen had defied the king, women across the empire would disrespect their husbands. Vashti was banished, her royal position removed, and a search began across the entire empire for a new queen. Young women were brought to the palace from every province. They would undergo 12 months of beauty treatments before being presented to the king. Whoever pleased him most would wear Vashti's crown. Among the young women brought to the palace was Esther. Of all the young women brought from across the empire, Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. The official in charge of the women favored her above all the others. When it was her turn to go to the king, she asked for nothing beyond what he suggested. No elaborate jewelry, no extravagant requests, just herself. And the king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won his grace and favor more than all the other young women. And he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen. A Jewish orphan from the exile. Hidden identity. No family name with power, no political connections. And now, the queen of the most powerful empire on earth. God was already moving. And no one in that palace knew it yet. King Ahasuerus promoted a man named Haman above all the other nobles, and the king commanded that everyone at the royal gate bow down to Haman. Everyone did, except Mordecai. Mordecai was Jewish, and he would not bow. When Haman learned that Mordecai was Jewish, he decided that punishing one man was not enough. He would destroy all of Mordecai's people, every Jewish man, woman, and child, across the entire Persian Empire. He went to the king with a carefully crafted lie. There is a certain people, he said, whose customs are different from all other people. It is not in the king's interest to tolerate them. The king handed Haman his signet ring. Do with them as you please. With one conversation, the lives of every Jewish person in 127 provinces were placed under a death sentence. A date was chosen by casting lots, the Pur, the 13th day of the 12th month. Every Jewish person in the empire to be killed on that day. The decree went out, and the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. When Mordecai learned what had been done, he tore his robes, put on sackcloth and ash, and went through the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. Esther's servants told her about Mordecai. She sent clothes for him. He would not accept them. Through a trusted servant named Hathach, messages passed between them through the palace walls. And Esther learned the truth. The decree, the date, the death sentence, waiting for her people. And Mordecai told her, "Go to the king, beg for mercy for your people." Esther sent back the only answer she could give. Everyone knows that anyone who goes to the king in the inner court without being summoned faces one punishment: death, unless the king extends his golden scepter. I have not been summoned to the king for 30 days. And Mordecai's response, the most important words in the entire book, arrived in her hands. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And then, the words that have echoed across 3,000 years of human history. Who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther sent this message back to Mordecai. Go, gather all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast as well, and then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. If I perish, I perish. 5 words. The most courageous 5 words spoken by any woman in all of Scripture. For 3 days, the Jewish people of Susa fasted and prayed. And on the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes. And she walked through the corridors of the palace, past the guards, through the outer court, to the entrance of the inner court, where the king sat on his throne. She had not been summoned. She had no appointment. She had no guarantee. She stood there, a Jewish orphan in a Persian queen's robes, and waited. And the king saw her. And he held out his golden scepter. She was safe, for now. But the hardest part was still ahead. Esther did not reveal her request at the first banquet, or even at the second. She waited, patiently, wisely, until the moment was exactly right. And then, at the second banquet, with the king at ease and Haman feeling secure, Esther spoke. If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, spare my life, and spare my people, for we have been sold, to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. The king was furious. Who has dared to do such a thing? Esther said, "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." Everything unraveled in an instant. The gallows Haman had built to hang Mordecai, 75 feet high, was used to hang Haman himself. Mordecai was given Haman's position. A new decree went out across all 127 provinces. The Jewish people could defend themselves. The mourning turned to joy. The fasting turned to celebration. The death sentence became a day of deliverance. And God's name does not appear once in the entire book, but his fingerprints are on every single page. Esther's story is for every person who has ever felt placed in an impossible situation they did not choose and cannot control. For every woman who has been told her voice does not matter and discovered that God placed her exactly where she needed to be. For every person carrying a hidden identity, a hidden pain, a hidden calling that has not yet been revealed. For every person facing a closed door and wondering whether going through it will cost them everything. Here is what God wrote into Esther's story. For you, you are not where you are by accident. The job you did not choose, the family you were born into, the city you ended up in, the season you cannot explain. God is in every single one of those details, moving through the shadows of your ordinary life, the same way he moved through the shadows of a Persian palace. Esther did not feel ready. She did not feel qualified. She was afraid. And she went anyway. That is all God has ever asked of any of us. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to see the whole plan. You just need to take the next step and trust the God who placed you here for such a time as this. If Esther's story spoke to something in your life today, if you needed to hear that you are where you are for a reason, please like this video and subscribe to His Story Told. Every week, we go deeper into the lives of the people of the Bible and the lessons God wrote into their stories for every one of us. Hit the bell so you never miss an episode, and share this with a woman in your life who needs to hear that her voice matters and that God placed her exactly where she needs to be. History is His story, and it is still being written. We will see you in the next one.